Russia says more than 250 Ukrainian soldiers have surrendered at the Azovstal steel plant in the overrun port city of Mariupol. Dozens of fighters are heavily wounded and have since been transferred to Russian-controlled territories. Couching that development in their terms, Ukrainian officials say more than 250 soldiers have already been evacuated through a humanitarian corridor, with the seriously injured taken to a hospital in the Russian-controlled town of Novozovsk. Russia is promising to treat those who have surrendered in line with international standards. Ukrainian officials say an exchange will be organized for their return home, but Moscow says it's looking to ban any such prisoner swap. On the far end of the country, Russian forces continue with their attacks. Moscow says its missiles have destroyed Western arms shipments in Ukraine's Lviv region. A series of explosions reportedly struck the western city this morning. Up to 10 blasts were heard. Officials say a missile strike blew up some military infrastructure. And for more on this, Kieran McQuillan joins us live from Lviv in Ukraine. Kieran, with dozens of Ukrainian soldiers appearing to have left the Azovstal steel plant, we're still hearing some are still there in that plant. Could you clarify that for us and also clarify if the battle for Mariupol is over?
Well, this may be the beginning of the end for those Azovstal defenders. The battle for Mariupol certainly will not be over until every single one of them has either died standing and fighting for this plant, which they have promised to do, or whether they've been evacuated, maybe even to a third country, as there have been some suggestions. You know, back in March, I remember reporting on this, and at one point, because communications from Mariupol were so confused, there was some suggestion that this plant had fallen. But of course, here we are 2 months later, and that certainly isn't the case. But it does look like we are in a little bit of the end game here. Now, the background to this is over the weekend, the Deputy Prime Minister's office here started these negotiations with the Russians as a prisoner exchange to try and take out some of those 30 to 60 most critically injured. Now, overnight, we saw buses arrive in the Donetsk region carrying 260 or so Azovstal fighters. That was a little bit of a surprise to some Ukrainians. They were separated, 53 of the most critically ill taken to the city of Novozovsk. The other 211 are still being held in another location somewhere there in Donetsk. Now, just recently, an advisor to President Zelensky's head of office, Podolyak Malikhov, says that the ongoing negotiations with the Russians have now been paused. The Ukrainians are presenting this as a humanitarian evacuation. It's a slightly different presentation from the Russians. They're saying that this is a surrender, and there are questions over whether these men will become prisoners of war and calls that they be prosecuted for war crimes. And in a new move just a few minutes ago, BBC's Ukraine service has announced that the Russian parliament wants to legislate against any prisoner exchange for these men. So this is definitely a developing story, and we have to see where it goes.
Kieran, also another developing story closer to where you are. Moscow saying it has hit Western arms shipments in Lviv this morning. If this should prove true, how would this affect Ukraine's defensive positions?
Well, just to go back to what happened last night, we were woken by an air raid alarm just after midnight, just at 1:45 in the morning. I was standing on this balcony, and we and my cameraman and I were able to see these glows in the distance and these very large booms. We heard up to 9 to 10 explosions. This morning, Maxim Kozitsky, the head of the regional government here, said that some rail infrastructure in Western Ukraine had been hit. Of course, Russia now says that they've struck at Western arms shipments, these heavy arms that are coming to the front line here in Ukraine to make some sort of difference to the battle lines that have been drawn down in the Donetsk region. Now, this to the west of here is Yarviv. I was able to see these explosions, and then about 40 seconds later hear the booms. Yarviv is approximately 40 kilometers from where I'm standing. Huge military facility here. Are these Western arms coming through this facility, and is this what's been hit? We have to wait and see what develops. But we do know that in the past, when this facility has been hit, some Western fighters fighting for the Foreign Legion of Ukraine have lost their lives.
Thanks for that, Kieran McQuillan, speaking to us there from Lviv in Ukraine.